recently a survey was widely reported online that Kings Island had sent out that had 3 possible new attractions, from the reasonable to the absurd. But was this survey even real? Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans, because that's who we are and that's who we care about. So,
Yeah,
Ryan, this survey, it's asking for thoughts on potential new rides. Let's start with the big one, I guess, the Beast 2.0.
Yeah, let's start with the Beast 2.0. And I have thoughts about this, and this is a snippet from it. So it looks legit on the surface. I mean, Quadratics as a company Cedar Fair uses. The headline looks right. But it's saying that the Beast, which is currently the world's longest wooden roller coaster, would be adding 2,640 feet of track that sends the riders out and back down the tallest drop of any wooden coaster, which is 184 feet, reaching a top speed of 74 miles an hour, allowing the Beast to reclaim its title as the longest and fastest wooden roller coaster on Earth. So I guess it would be reclaiming it from itself. It's currently the longest wooden coaster on Earth.
Correct.
So the theory with this is that I guess the Beast would come out of the station, and as opposed to making, the sharp right turn, it would kind of go straight, and then it would have this kind of helix action in the old vortex plot of land. What, on the scale of 1 to 10, what are the chances? Like right off the bat, what are you?
0.
No, I said 1 to 10.
Okay, a 1.
Okay.
A 1. But no, this is something. Whoever would put that on a survey, it would seem like it'd have to be the type of person that would say, you know what, we really have tanked this year in the social space in terms of our share of voice. Let's do something like this to get people talking. It's almost like it has to come out of left field like that.
Yeah, and it's funny because this is one of those things where I thought maybe the survey was real, like maybe some of the elements were, because the other 2 options, which we will get to in the future, are actually kind of reasonable options. But I thought maybe this one was, if it was real, then I thought maybe it was some sort of like throw off thing where everyone's talking about this when secretly they want to see what second place is. Because if they put this survey out, this is the one that's going to win. Let's not kid ourselves.
Well, it definitely generated conversation and everything, real or not. But, if it is real, for someone to want to put that on there, knowing that the odds weren't going to happen, I mean, you're trying to garner some attention there, just to drive up, your share of voice in that on social. That's the only reason you would put something like that on there, because that's just not going to happen.
Well, let's talk about why it's not going to happen. I would say the number one reason is the nearly 200-foot drop has been done by Kings Island. It didn't go well the first time. So I don't think that they want to be the park to try it again.
Why don't you just build a new wooden coaster then, if you're going to do that in the vortex spot, right? So why wouldn't you just build something that's new, that's spectacular? Why would you take something that's a legend, iconic, and even tamper with it? You just wouldn't, unless you got people there that have no real knowledge of what that ride is and what it means to your guests.
Well, I think that as far as creativity and stuff, it would be much easier to just go to IAAPA, find a ride, put in that plot, but at least this is something different, I guess. But you're right. I mean, people wouldn't like the fact that the Beast is disturbed. You're poking the Beast at that point. Also, you said, why not just build a new coaster? That's kind of what I'm screaming with this. If you take a wood coaster and you RMC it, you are essentially making a new ride. Beast 2.0 would be tough it's the Beast, but they added more to it. And it's like, would you buy a ticket to see that? I bet a lot wouldn't. Even with Top Thrill 2, if that ride wasn't problematic like it was, there's no way that they would do that. There's no way that they would try to refine a previous ride. You're better off coming up with a new ride and marketing that from the ground up rather than, remember the Beast? We added a helix, because I think that there would probably be some general excitement, and then the coaster enthusiasts would probably enjoy it. But then when the general public started to ride it come, late April, early May, they'd be like, this is freaking absurd. Plus, I think there's something to saying that the Beast is about as long as they get with roller coasters too. That's probably kind of hitting that threshold of where a lot of people are checked out, where they can't take it anymore. You'll get a lot more people sick and stuff. So imagine adding 2 or 3 minutes to the Beast.
Yeah, I mean, it could be done. I mean, it's if they really wanted to do this, I mean, you could, just as you're coming out of the station, like you said, just cut over into the vortex plot, go up your lift hill, drop and do all the different elements that's going to be in place there, and then you just come around and then connect up to the current lift hill. So yeah, I mean, it definitely could be done, but no, I don't even know why something like that would be on a survey, because they're not going to do that. So why even include it? Unless there was an ulterior motive, like you said, either to throw people off, or like I said, because hey, we've lost our share of voice isn't as strong as it was before on social. We need to get people talking. Let's do this.
Is it possible? This is totally. I'm not wearing headphones right now. I'm wearing an aluminum hat because this is my conspiracy theory. What if they put that out there, thinking that, okay, if people are like all about this, then they don't care if the Beast is altered because they're considering RMCing it. Conspiracy.
Yeah, but there's number one, you only think about RMC in a coaster if it's a problem child,
right?
And the Beast is not a problem child. Number two, the layout and design of that does not really bode well for a total RMC conversion.
Yeah,
just with with the topography and everything like that, it doesn't work there. And do you really want to ride it's going to have 30 to 40% downtime?
You must mean a generous one. Yeah,
I mean, listen, I mean, RMC, as great as the thrills are in that, there's an abundance of downtime with them.
It's the trade-off that parks were making in the early 2000s with Intamin. Do you want the best ride? Yeah, because you get cheap, good, and fast, and you get 2 of the 3.
Yeah. Now so, Dollywood, finally they have that reliability now that they've been waiting for with their coaster with Lightning Rod there, but it took a while. But some of the other ones, they all experienced some issues in that, and there's just a lot more involved with that, with the different sensors, the type of train you have to use, and everything. And to me, the trade-off, the downtime, the loss of if you're in line and it goes down, you can't get that time back. To me, it's the reliables you got to go with. That's why you see a lot of the B&M coasters that went into the legacy Cedar Fair parks, because they're reliable. They work.
Yeah. Probably the cost of ownership's lower too, because the maintenance has to add up. Even if it is a few more $1 million, then, I mean, it's easy to make that back when you're not replacing track sections or new trains or whatever. I mean, that comes fast. And another good point that I saw, it was because Coaster Studios evaluated this as well, and they didn't take the approach of this is probably a hoax. They more took the approach of this is absurd. But they were like, well, are you going to have that big of a drop and stuff with PTC trains with 3 benchers at that? And then they were like, so what do? You hop on like a Millennium Flyer, and then you ride that part, then you get off and you hop on the PTC, and then you go over to the original section of track. So I think it's absurd. I'm not one of those people like with the Beast that sees it as something that can't ever be changed and stuff, because it's been changed recently slightly. But with that being said, I think this would be a horrendous waste of money, and it just, without doing it right, it wouldn't garner the proper attention and stuff to make it a successful ride.
But as they say, when things aren't broke, let's go fix it, right?
Yeah, when in doubt, use duct tape, right?
Yeah, but as Ricky Bobby would say, that's dumb.
That he would. Okay. Well, there were 2 other things on the survey, but both of these I could see happening. We'll go with the other coaster. So an Infinity coaster. This is similar to like Hang 10 at Knott's Berry Farm.
Mm-hmm.
This is Gerstlauer. I could see this happening. This would fit in the Vortex plot, I imagine.
Oh, it'd fit. I'd be on board with that. I think, it'd be a fun ride. It'd be something that, you're not just going to go 4 or 5 hours away and ride something like this. So it's going to be a little bit unique to Kings Island in that respect. I think at night, the lighting package, that they could do with that would be phenomenal. I think it would
Mm,
be, just imagine how how that would just change the vibe and everything of Coney Mall. That back end of it. If
mm.
you had that lighting package with this, so I'd be all about this. I think that would be an exciting attraction. I think it would fit, the space, and I think Kings Island guests would love it.
I think so too. And I think that anything's on the board. This, to our knowledge, we have to write up as also a hoax as part of the other one because when they send out these surveys, they throw a bunch of ideas at you for what you like. They never say like, what do you think about the Beast 2.0? It's always like, if you had to choose between these three, which one would you choose? And this was another one of them. Um,
But realistic. I mean, like you said, it could fit there. It would be something the guest would, be excited about. Just looking at, the design, and it gives you some, you could have some fun with the name in that too.
I think so too, and I would get really particularly excited about the lighting package. And
Oh
you're
yeah,
the whole back end of the park is so dark and stuff. And honestly, even with the Beast, like I think the one thing that really, if they tainted it, I wouldn't like is, well, as they start cutting down woods around it when they put Orion and stuff. The lighting package for the most part would probably be closer to the midway, so it'd be on the opposite side of the ride from the Beast. So I think that they could do that. They could coexist without, all the light pollution in the back of the Beast that would ruin the ride experience. But
hmm
um, they bought Hang 10 at Knott's Berry Farm. I don't follow Knott's Berry Farm to know if it's had a lot of uptime or downtime and how it's gotten over with the guests. But all the reviews I've heard have been positive for it. It's comfortable and it's thrilling and it's a really cool experience.
yeah. I've heard it's nothing but positive reviews, Ryan.
Yeah, so that could be really cool. So Infinity Coaster is the second one, and then this is the one that I think is the most likely of the three, and we're talking about a Peanuts Interactive Dark Ride. So this is clearly pieced together. It looks like it's supposed to be something like Toy Story Mania at Disney's Hollywood Studios, but you'd probably do almost everything on a screen, not unlike that ride. Um, but what's kind of weird is that with this picture, it's got the vehicle in it and it's facing a screen that's off. So I don't understand, like, whoever either photoshopped this or rendered it or something. Like, the average person looking at this wouldn't understand that that's a screen. It just looks like a black wall.
It
So
does.
that's the thing that
Yeah,
struck me with it.
yeah. They missed the mark on that one right there with that piece of the rendering. But no, I mean, this is something that would be realistic. I mean, let's face it, Boo Blasters, it's kind of fatigued. It's
Mhm.
time for replacement there. I'm not big on everything just being, screens. You want it to
No.
be a little more than that. If you're going to do a dark ride, let's do it right. Let's make something that, might be one of the best in the industry as a dark ride. Let's just not take something that's just off the shelf and put it in there.
I don't know if this is necessarily off the shelf, but you do make a good point about it. It would probably be all screens. In fact, it looks like there's like maybe a Charlie Brown statue in the corner there,
hmm
but it doesn't look like it moves. So my biggest fear with the Boo Blasters thing, and I've said this a million times on this show alone, is that I'm afraid that they'll revamp it to Peanuts, but it'll be Boo Blasters, but Charlie Brown. So, and it's almost exactly what happened when Scooby Doo and the Haunted Castle became Boo Blasters, where they ripped out all the IP and they just put in generic Sally Dark Ride stuff. So, as
Yeah.
opposed to, Lucifer, you'd have like a cardboard Charlie Brown and Sally and whatever. And, that gun system that they have is awful. It's the worst in the industry. So,
Yeah. You could take it all, you'd go through all the different holidays of Peanuts. I could imagine that. You'd come through and you'd have the Thanksgiving room, you'd have the Christmas room, you'd have, you know, the other things that they do. So, uh, that's the natural thing to do is go Peanuts because of where it's at,
mhm,
by the kids there. It's actually the location of it. Boo Blasters is not Planet Snoopy. It's really International Street, but they
yes.
call it the kids area. So if you went with Peanuts, then you would have to actually officially integrate that, annex it into Planet Snoopy. But that makes the most sense. I know there's a lot of clamoring. Everybody would love to see, a reboot of Phantom Theater. But let's face it, Ryan, with the IPs that they own, whether it's Peanuts, DC, Looney Tunes, whatever it is, they're not going to do something and not use one of those IPs in that building.
I think that you might be entirely correct about that. But also you got to remember that they've kind of skimped a lot on the Kings Island stuff, and a dark ride is expensive. So, like I said, be careful what you wish for, because your big new ride for 2026 or whatever could be Boo Blasters, but Charlie Brown.
Yeah, but you mentioned expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it would be to do it right.
Right.
So if you're going to do something, if you're not going to make it the best it can be, don't do it.
That's what I say.
Yeah, don't do it. Just leave it as Boo Blasters then. If you're not going to do something and you're going to try to make it one of the best in the industry, instead of just cutting corners and how cheap can we do this? Because guess no, when it's not as good as something could be, especially when they have comparisons like a Phantom Theater and how good it used to be. So if you're going to do it, go all out and make it right.
Yeah, and if you're going to do it too, don't announce that it's going to be this and that, and then most of it's cut out. The day after the announcement, you start looking at what to cut out of it. Work with the money that you got. Make a plan. Just do it. It's kind of we've seen so many things in the last 2 or maybe 3 years, ever since after the 2022 season. So much of this promise and underdeliver stuff. Even Camp Snoopy was supposed to be a luscious green thing, but they cut out a lot of the landscaping, which was no doubt that was a budgetary thing, because landscaping's expensive, and it was supposed to be all this green space, and it's just not. It's a concrete slab with new stuff around it. I'd hate to see that with this. The park only has one dark ride, and to have to live another 10, 15 years with Boo Blasters but Charlie Brown, I think that would be disappointing. My dream, though, whether they do a Peanuts thing or Phantom Theater or Batman or whatever, is do it on a year when there actually is a decent capital expenditure. Don't do a $5 million version of this. Do the 20 million version, 25 million. Make it, you got to be good. You got to get your PR and marketing in line. But a good dark ride does sell. And if you don't believe me, ask every park in Florida.
It does sell, and I think that's the one thing that's really missing from the lineup is a, top immersive dark ride experience. They have a dark ride, but it's just there. You really need a good one. And I think as much as the coaster enthusiasts, they want a new roller coaster, they want that vortex spot filled. But what the park needs more is a great dark ride.
Yeah. And with that being said, when you fill the vortex spot, wait till you have a decent capital expenditure to do that too. Because even if you wait 10 years, everyone's going to compare what you put in there to the vortex. And the vortex was far more beloved than I think even the park realized, because people are
it was. No, there was no question about it. It had there was a lot of history with that ride. A lot of guests. The park was of the age at that point in time where it was the first roller coaster a lot of guests rode. It was, for most, it was the first coaster that took them through, multiple inversions, unless they rode Screaming Demon, in terms of the inversions in that. For first ride that first job for some people, first ride they operated. There's just a lot of little things, intangibles that went into that ride that it's missed. You can't replace that.
It's your classic aside from your typical wood coaster, Aero Looper is your typical Americana ride.
The thing that's sad about it is, it reached the end of its service life. It needed, it definitely needed some money put into it. But then just a few years later, you see what Busch Gardens did with Loch Ness Monster and how they breathed new life into that. And now that ride's got another 30, 40 years in it.
Yeah.
But there was a park that knew what that was, what it meant to their guests. And rather than retiring it, let's find a way to prolong the life of this ride, and they made it happen. So that part is a little tough for fans of Vortex. That's a tough pill to swallow, to see what Busch Gardens did with Loch Ness Monster and what became of the Vortex.
Yeah. Either, maybe they didn't realize, maybe they didn't care. But I'm sure that Busch Gardens Williamsburg had to fight really hard to get those millions of dollars to redo, because you think the corporate people at or United Parks or whatever they're called now understand the value of spending $6, $7, $8 million on revamping a 40-year-old coaster? No. They had to advocate for that. They had to care a little bit.
Yeah, you have to advocate for it. You have to have the people there that believe in the ride, that can market it as a new experience. You got to have that kind of talent. Do you have the people in place that can sell that as a new experience, which is going to sell more passes, more tickets, and that. You look at Kings Island, the log flume was on the way out.
Mm-hmm.
But the team that they had in place believed in the ride, believed they could market and promote it as a new experience, which they did. And now that ride here, 20-something years later, is still there, and it was on the chopping block. But you had a group of people that were fighting to keep, when the easy decision was, let's get rid of this. And that's what you would have needed with Vortex.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like the easy decision is often the one that's made right now. But
it was a tough. I will say this: being there at the time, it was a very hard decision for the park, for the general manager Mike Kuntz to have to be the one that made that final call. Like, yes. So I mean, it's a hard decision, and a lot of things go into it, and but it is hard when especially now when I have fans of the Vortex pointing out to me, it could have been saved. Look what Busch Gardens did with Loch Ness Monster.
Well, there's Kings Island over the past several years has been a story of coulda. They built Fury 325, but they settled on Orion. It's a lot of it. It's just been a lot of poor decisions, one after another. And this, I think, was one of them. It was cheaper to tear it down, so let's just tear it down. Now, granted, I don't know exactly what was wrong with Loch Ness Monster versus the Vortex, but you can imagine that the problems were probably somewhat similar for similarly aged rides by the same manufacturer. So I don't know. I guess we're out that ride now. Okay. So, Don, tell me about your t-shirt.
Well, this t-shirt that I am wearing, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it is a Tower Topics logo t-shirt. Comes in a Carolina blue color, whatever size you would need. They're just $22. If you're a fan of the show and you'd like to have one, just send us a DM on our X, which is Tower_Topics, or you can message Ryan or myself on our personal channels. Whatever you need to do, drop a message here on, if you're watching on YouTube, just let us know that you're interested in one, and we'll send you the QR code to make that purchase. And once you purchase the shirt, it only takes a matter of days to get your shirt.
Yep, it's $22, including shipping. We'll get it out to you in just a few days. All right, let's move on to the listener questions. First listener question from FYE Coasters out of Cincinnati, Ohio. He said, if the Eiffel Tower wasn't the centerpiece of Kings Island, what would have been? Or if you could change it, what would you change it to? Very good question.
It is a good question. I think if the Eiffel Tower had not been an option to be the centerpiece of Kings Island when it was being built, I think the centerpiece likely would have been the Grand Carousel.
Do you think the carousel would have been where the Eiffel Tower is now?
I think it would have been moved right into that spot behind the fountain and that. But I think that's where it likely would have gone. It would have been that centerpiece because, I mean, it's a beautiful attraction, right? Especially at night. And it was a very popular ride at Coney Island. Obviously, the thrills have gotten much bigger over the years and what guests are looking for. But I think at that time, 1972, I think it would have been the carousel.
Yeah, I think so too. Or or they would have done more marketing around the fountain itself. Because remember, the fountain was like one of the biggest ones in the world. So that might have been enter and, because remember their whole thing was enter and see a 1/3 scale replica of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France. They would have said enter and see this luscious 2 football field size fountain or whatever.
Yeah, you go to a lot of parks that when you walk in, I mean, one of the first attractions you see is the carousel.
Yeah,
it's Cedar Point. You come into Kennywood, it's not too far away from the entrance.
Both
You've
Great
got Hershey
America.
Park. Yeah, Hershey Park. It's right there. Yeah, right. The Great America Parks. I mean, it's right there. So carousels make a good centerpiece.
Awesome. Okay. Next listener question. Brian P. from New Baltimore, Ohio. He said, I heard through the Ace Find that Don is a voter for the 2024 Golden Ticket Awards. So did he vote for Snoopy Soapbox Racer for the best new ride and Kings Island for the best kids area? Isn't it rude to ask somebody who they voted for? Doesn't that just cause friction at the Thanksgiving dinner table? But answer his question nonetheless. Are you?
I like to play on.
I
like to play on word. I like to play on words though. I heard it through the Ace Find.
The Ace Find, yeah.
Yes, I had a vote in the Golden Ticket Awards, and it was an honor to be given that opportunity by Amusement Today. A lot of thought, went into casting my vote for each category. Nothing was handed to anybody. When you're voting, you have to separate two things that are your favorite attractions or your favorite parks from what truly is the best, because that's what you're voting for, the best of the best in that category. So there were some really hard decisions. But as far as, what parks I voted for, what attractions I voted for and all that, I'm going to keep that to myself. But it was, like I said, it was an honor to have that opportunity to vote.
Now, just remember, if like the addition of Camp Snoopy makes them win the Golden Ticket by one vote, that could be because of you, or lose because of one vote, that could have been because of you. Awesome. Great question, Brian P. from New Baltimore, Ohio. So, well, Golden Ticket Awards are coming up in 2 or 3 weeks now. And no, I'm only 2 weeks. Yeah. It's,
right after Labor Day. Yeah, right after Labor Day.
Yeah. Right at, well, are they okay? They're in September. I kept on thinking they were in mid-August. Yeah, we'll miss
voting ends. Voting ends in August here. A couple, maybe a week or so. Voting will end, but no, like I said, there's it's really hard. When you have these lists of different things you can choose from, and man, I really love that. I love this. I love that. And to pick one, I mean, it's hard, and you really have to separate yourself from what's your favorites or where you visit a lot to what really truly is the best. And I will say that I sleep good at night knowing that I feel that I made the right selections in every category.
So you only know if you made the right selections if every one of your selections wins. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, others might not feel that way, but I felt like I was true and honest with what I was voting.
Well, that's good. All right. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.